Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are on this Wednesday, November 25, 2020. And it's Thanksgiving Eve in America, everyone. And I'm pleased to welcome Nimesh Porbandarwalla from Dr. Comfort Shoes, part of DJO, to our show. And the topic today is Journey from Software to Shoes, driven by passion with twists and turns along the way. Nimesh, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thanks, Ram. Thanks, Julio. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and joining me together is my colleague, and apologies for not introducing you, Tulio Siragusa from sunny Los Angeles, Orange County, California. And Nimesh comes from the beautiful city of Austin, Texas. So Nimesh, just to kick off the show here, tell us a little about yourself. What makes Nimesh tick?
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I grew up in Mumbai, India. Came to sort of the United States when I was.
Oh, I'm from Mumbai too, by the way. I'm Mumbai
nice.
kid too.
Where in Mumbai, Ram? Just real quick.
I was from the suburbs in Goregaon.
Goregaon, okay. So I'm from Bandra, so as they call it, the bad boys of Bandra. But I grew up there. Came to do my undergrad at UT in computer science. What really makes me tick is what my topic is. It's passion, it's challenges, it's the ability to sort of, I love, and that's why I think probably I love sports. I love to play things. I love to, I play soccer. I'm into cricket. I play tennis nowadays. And it's really the drive for making a change in the world. I always tell folks at the end of the day, if I leave this world and I have $0 in my pocket, that's going to be okay. But if I leave this world without making any changes to this world, that would be a problem. So that's really what drives me around.
That's great. And by the way, speaking of Bandra, I went to college in Bandra by Land's End, right by the water. So I know that area.
Which one?
It's called CRC, Concesio Rodriguez College of Engineering.
Okay, because I lived on Bandstand.
Oh, so we must have passed by your home.
I bet you have.
Every day for 4 years.
Yep.
That's great. And this is great, Nimesh. So it's all about that passion for sports and everything else, right? So I guess sports need good shoes. So tell us a little about Dr. Comfort and your mission out there.
Yeah, so I'll take a little bit of a step back. So I started my career in software, and really, spent the last 8 years working before Dr. Comfort at Dell, which is a very well recognizable brand. Everyone knows about it. And then one day this opportunity of Dr. Comfort came about, and when I talked to my friends and everyone, they were like, "What, are you going to leave Dell for like Dr. Comfort? Like, who knows Dr. Comfort? And you're going to be selling shoes. And if anyone comes from the Indian family background, you would understand this even better than I would. They would say things like, you're going from like computers to like shoes. Like, are you like a shoe salesman now?" But the reason why I made this move is that when I heard the Dr. Comfort story, I realized that there are so many folks in this world that do not understand what wearing the right footwear does for you. Especially if you're a diabetic, have some kind of neuropathy, then having the right diabetic footwear, which Dr. Comfort is, and having the right orthotics or the inserts that go in this footwear is essential for not only you having a lifestyle, but for you from a living standpoint, and I'll get to that part. So just some quick stats. There are about 30 million diabetics in the United States, right? Out of those 30 million diabetics, about 10 to 12 million suffer from what's known as neuropathy, which is where your blood circulation to your foot dies off. What happens is that when neuropathy gets bad, you get what's known as diabetic foot ulcers, and diabetic foot ulcers eventually cause amputations. To give you some really crazy stats is that every 30 seconds in the world, someone's foot is getting amputated because of diabetic foot ulcers or neuropathy.
That's really a big deal, huh? Like this whole link of diabetes to foot amputations. That's well established and well known. But I didn't know that you could actually prevent it, or at least prolong it, by just wearing the right shoes. That seems like a very simple solution. It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It is. And what's even crazier, Ram, is that when you look in the United States especially, and if you're 65 plus, which means you're Medicare eligible, Medicare will pay for a pair of footwear, diabetic footwear, and 3 custom orthotics every year. They'll pay for it. As long as you go to a podiatrist or some kind of a physician that can sign off that you do have diabetes and neuropathy. And yet, what we have found in our studies is that 30% of those folks, these are folks that are 65 plus, have Medicare, have diabetes, have some kind of neuropathy, don't know about diabetic footwear or don't wear diabetic footwear.
So for members of the audience, if you're listening to this, right, this is a simple, easy solution. It's also reimbursable through your insurance or Medicare, right? So just wearing the right.
Not insurance. Yeah. Unfortunately, most of insurance does not cover it, but okay. Medicare 100% does. And there are some insurance companies, especially in the Medicaid part in New Jersey and actually California, 2 places that you guys live, that would cover 1 shoes and 1 pair of orthotics, right? The other crazy thing about this is that if someone has an amputation, okay, their survivability, the number of years that they live beyond that amputation is less than 2 years. That's less than what you would have for things like leukemia, breast cancer. I mean, some of the most, notorious diseases that we have out there, the lifespan of someone getting amputated with diabetes is less than that. And so, in this whole journey we talk about today, there's nothing else you take from me, nothing else. Just take this, that if you have diabetes and neuropathy, go to your podiatrist and wear the right footwear and orthotics. And
that's great. That's amazing.
Now, so, I have a question. Are there plans to make the shoes a little bit more stylish? Historically, they've been these huge moon boots looking shoes. Is there plans to make them a little bit more stylish? I mean, you 65, you're still young nowadays, right? You're still.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So fashion does kind of play a role in the aesthetics of these shoes. What's the plan around that? I'm just curious. I'm probably going to need those shoes at some point, and I want them to be cool shoes.
They will be.
No, and not only you, Tulio, the people that really want it cool are the women, okay? The men, honestly, black shoes, fine, they will run with it, right? It's the women that will come back to me and say things like, where are the heels? Where's the high arch? Where's the open toes, right? So let me give you a little bit of background. So first of all, diabetic footwear, for it to qualify for Medicare eligibility, has to have certain criteria. One of the criteria is that it needs to be closed toe. So it cannot be open toe shoes. So you can't have, flats that are open toe, for instance. 2 is it needs to have a wide toe box, because most people that have diabetes, unfortunately, are on the obese side of things. And so you need to have a wide toe box so your toes don't get crushed. 3, it needs to have double depth. So it needs to have depth where you can put in an orthotic into it. 4, it needs to be made out of a high quality, suitable material, for instance, a leather or a merino wool or something of that sort, right? And 5, it doesn't have to have any kind of stitching or lining inside the shoe so that it doesn't irritate your skin, okay? So here are the 5 conditions you need. That being said, diabetic footwear has come a long way. If you go to www.drcomfort.com, you can see our footwear. They are fairly fashionable. Now, I'm not going to say they are, the most fashionable out there, but they're pretty good looking. To the point, and the way I know this is my brother-in-law is 28. He's a pulmonologist doing a fellowship, and I bought him a pair of boots, a diabetic boots called the Ruck. And he was like, man, those look really jazzy. And I was like, yeah, they're really good looking if you want to wear them. And they're super comfortable too. So, he wears them, he goes with his buddies, goes out, has a good time, has parties. And his buddies are like, man, those are amazing shoes. Where did you get them from? Like, which boutique did you buy it from? And so I think what's interesting is sometimes I find that the stigma of just when I say it's a diabetic footwear, people immediately think, oh, these must be ugly, black, these boxy shoes. When in reality, it's not. In reality, we have really good athletic looking shoes. We have really good sort of casual shoes, boots. Now, do we have those, older looking Velcro shoes? Yeah, absolutely we have those, because there's absolutely a big audience that wants those shoes. But most of our shoes right now look pretty fashionable. Now, for the women on the other side, unfortunately, because of the closed toe, no heels, needs to have a broad toe box, all those criteria. We can have shoes that have heels or open toes or high arches. So, there's surely a little bit more of a struggle for the women out there. But that being said, we're always looking to find new ways of kind of create more fashionable women's shoes that meet those criteria.
So I'm curious, do you work with any designers, branded designers and things like that, to mix and match the whole diabetic medical needs of the product versus the fashion needs of the product? How do you marry the two needs?
Yeah, so we work with designers who design for these companies, right? So, the way most of these companies work is, like a Nike, Adidas, so whoever you call it, and then also the boutique like Allbirds and those kind of stuff. They actually have designers in-house, but they also have contract designers from outside. And they're designers that specialize in making comfort women's shoes, specialize in making boots. And so we do contract with some of these designers, and then we basically look at, again, the overarching part of this thing is that we need to make sure that it fits the criteria for diabetic footwear. So, to your point, yes. Now, have we ever done a co-branding exercise? No. And it's something that's interesting, absolutely. We've thought about it. Do we reach out to some sort of like a Nike or a Adidas or a Puma, one of those folks, and say, hey, why don't we do a co-branding exercise between you guys? But right now, I said, my big goal in life is awareness, just trying to get everyone knowing about what a diabetic footwear is and why you need it, before we go into the branding aspects of it.
Speak a little, Nimesh, about the technical process that goes into making these shoes, right? What kind of technology? Yeah. I read a little about 3D printing being used in this technology. And then what else? Like, how do you get the word out? Do you use digital technologies? Are you primarily online? Or do you focus more on doctors' offices and things like that? What's your business model like?
Yeah, so obviously those are two different questions, so I'll break them up. So from the first part about technology, the technology for the shoes is very simple. It's a normal shoe. It's just with different sort of, criteria that are there. The technology for the orthotics is what really is improving over time. So when I say these are orthotics, these are actually custom orthotics. These are orthotics that are actually made to fit your foot exactly. They're made from from an imprint of your foot. And so if you think about it from where it started, in 1998 is when the therapeutic shoe bill was written. At that time, it was done using a cast. So similar to when you break your hand, you put yourself in a cast, they would put your foot in a cast, and they would use that to manually hand make these orthotics, sort of a very long, lengthy process. Then it went to folks putting your foot in a foam box, which is something similar to when you have a baby and you want to take their footprints or their handprints, and you put them in this foam box. And then you basically scan this phone box using a CAD software, and then basically have the machine sort of, cut the orthotics for you. Then it has gone now, what we're using nowadays is what's known as an occipital camera. So we have an iPad, and you put an occipital camera on top of the iPad. The occipital camera is actually a 3D sensing camera, and it creates a 3D image of your foot. And that image is now used as the way to create your orthotic. Moving forward, where this is going to is that, one, you're going to have, the iPhone 12 Pro already has the lidar camera on it, which is a 3D sensing camera. And so the future of this is, your phone having this camera to sort of be able to create this 3D imagery of your foot and being able to send us the image so that we can make a custom orthotic for you, as well as people putting, 3D printers within their shops. So that instead of, right now the way it works is, you go to a podiatrist or you go to a physician, they'll take an image of your foot, they will send the image to us. We will have machines that will basically cut that, use that image to cut you a custom orthotic and then ship it back to you. In the future, these folks will have 3D printers in-house, and then they will just print the 3D orthotics in front of you, right? And right now, the unfortunate thing is 3D, even printing 3D orthotics takes about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And so once the technology gets good enough and we can do this in about 20 minutes, that's where we will go with it.
That's pretty cool.
And then your second question was technology as well as
digital. Like, how do you sell and what's the model?
Yes, that's a great question. So, when I came to Dr. Comfort, the one thing we were doing a lot was we were spending all our our marketing dollars, reaching out to podiatrists, orthotic and prosthetic folks, reaching out to the VA, the hospital, and the distributors, and spending money with print ads and medical journals and trade shows and conferences. But what I quickly found out was that our brand awareness within that group was around 95%. They knew who we were. I mean, every podiatrist, if you ask them who's Dr. Comfort, they know Dr. Comfort because we are the number one brand when it comes to diabetic footwear. But the people that did not know about Dr. Comfort were the people who needed to wear them, are the patients. And so in the last year and a half, we've completely changed our strategy, and we're really focusing on awareness and really going after the patient through digital. So we are using social media, using influencers. We've built up an email list. We're reaching out to what's known as diabetic educators. So these are the folks that, just like, Alcoholic Anonymous, there are these diabetic groups that meet and talk about how to take care of their diabetic needs. And it's generally led by a diabetic educator. And so we're reaching out to them and promoting it through them. We've also built up a pretty strong direct-to-consumer model. Now, this will not be Medicare reimbursable, but if you want to just go and buy on cash our shoes, you could go to our website and buy it directly from there.
Can we just buy it on your website, or can we buy it on, say, Amazon or?
On Amazon too, yeah. So we do sell through Amazon. We also sell through our website. It just depends where you feel more convenient from buying from. But you can easily buy it through that. And there, we're doing the standard things. We're spending a lot of money on search. And what's interesting is that initially our target audience was diabetics, and we were really targeting diabetics and really going after them. But what we have found out in this whole process is that our shoes are super comfortable. Just think about this, right? A 400-pound person who has diabetes with neuropathy is wearing our shoes and they find it super comfortable to wear it all day. That you and me as average people are also going to find it super comfortable. And so we've kind of changed our model in the last, and actually the pandemic has helped. So, we were trying to find new segments to go after. And so one of the things we looked at is the essential workers, folks that are on their feet all the time and doing it. And actually we have a promotion called the Heroes Promotion, where we're offering 60% off for anybody who is in the essential workers and helping with the pandemic, because we feel like those folks are on their feet and they need these comfortable shoes.
That's pretty smart, and for a good cause too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question. Speaking of technology, Nimesh, any potential use of sensors to study the performance of the shoes or the use of the shoes to get better about how to, for R&D purposes or other purposes, medically induced purposes, anything of that nature on the horizon as well? There's so many devices, right? You got a watch, yes. You got pendants, but I'm curious, so much comes from, so much data could be gathered from how we walk, whether we run, what have you, that can provide input, especially for people who have morbidities like diabetes. Is there plans to do that as well?
Without going into a lot of details, yes. The answer is yes. And you're right, Tulio, in the sense that, having sensors on your foot, if you think about it, right? I mean, foot therapy, which is a Chinese sort of, therapy, initially started by the Chinese. I mean, was used for so many things. Your foot can solve a lot of issues. And so having the right sensors in your shoes, in your orthotics, can help and look at things like pressure, can help look at things like how you walk, your gait, and your sweat can give you a lot on your feet. And so we are looking at all sorts of technologies that embed sensors in it, embed in the shoes and the orthotics, and in different sort of in the compression, and again, figuring out how we can best use those technologies to drive what would be early identification of diabetic foot ulcers or other foot ailments. So it's something we're absolutely looking at. And not only us, to be very honest with you, it's interesting that even Medicare is looking at those, and they are creating billing codes that people can use to bill for sensors that basically send data across. And again, I think the pandemic has helped in that, because as more and more people cannot go to podiatrists and orthotic and prosthetic folks, it has led to telemedicine becoming an important part of our daily.
And medical devices in general, right?
And medical devices in general, exactly. And so it has sort of sped up the whole sensor world of how do we build the right sensors and capture the right data and use that data to not only do population management but also early detection.
So do you have a shoe line that's coming out with sensors in them right now, or any other products, or cannot say?
Yeah, I'll take the fifth on that. Yeah, I can't say much on that.
Okay.
But again, these are all the things that we see, and we're looking at. As you said, we are the #1 players of diabetic footwear in this industry, and it's on us to make sure that we are ahead on the technology curve too.
Now, without you giving away any secrets, I'm curious about you said earlier in the beginning of the show that diabetics tend to have their nerve endings diminish in their feet.
Yep.
So would it help if the shoes had some kind of like built-in reflexology, someone sitting at a desk all day and it somehow just stimulates things? Is that part of the plans too?
So you want a 3-foot massage with your shoes?
Well, no, it's not just the foot. I'm talking about this.
I wouldn't mind it.
There's medical benefits to actually doing acupressure in certain points of the feet for people who maybe have a job where they're sedentary. That's not going to help with the circulation down there. Maybe there's, I don't know, with sensors every 30 minutes or something, it just tickles your feet to get up or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so that's where we're going. Not the first part, which is
we should have your innovation department
and doing the massage piece. But we are where this industry is going at is basically notifying you on your Apple Watch or your certain your connected device that, hey, it's time for you to get up. It's time for you to take a walk, right? It's time for you to move your feet. It might even have sensors that for instance if you are developing diabetic foot ulcers, what really happens is that in the area where the ulcer is going to develop, it gets hotter. Heat starts building up, and looking at temperature, you can differentiate. Hey, is this going to become a diabetic foot ulcer, right? And so at that point, you could even alert the person and say, hey, go check your foot. Or because here's what happens actually with neuropathy, right? The biggest problem with neuropathy is that you don't even know you have neuropathy because you have no nerve endings die out, and so you don't know you have neuropathy. That's why if you have neuropathy, you could bleed to death and not know you're bleeding because there's no sensor telling your brain that you're breathing. You're bleeding, right? And so this could be a way for you to look at things and say, hey, go look at your foot, get it checked, or go to a podiatrist and have them check it for you, right? So not the massage part that Ram wants, but more about, alerting people of the right thing to do.
Is it just shoes? Are you doing other kinds of products for the hands or some other?
No, our focus, Ram, is really lower extremities. So it starts off, and one thing I haven't talked about is our compression. So, we are one of the few manufacturers that have a US-based FDA-approved compression facility in the United States, in Asheboro, North Carolina. And so what we are looking at is from a compression standpoint on things that we could do from a compression or diabetic sock standpoint, which can also help with blood circulation, blood flow, and those kind of things. So not to do with anything beyond the lower extremities, because our focus is really to get people on their feet and save their limbs and their lives. But that's really where we're focusing on right now.
And by compression, you mean compression socks, right?
Yeah, compression socks. Yes, exactly. Compression socks, which is also very much a needed thing, especially with blood circulation and blood supply, and making sure that people legs, if you've ever worn some compression socks and gone for a run versus not wearing a compression socks and gone for a run, you will see a big difference in your foot fatigue.
That's good to know. So athletes might be an audience for that, right?
Yes. And so for that, on that business, we are really concentrating more on sports, on weekend warriors, on folks that are, what we would have called, workers who are always flying, right? I mean, but now no one is flying. But anyways,
one of them, yeah.
Yeah, I used to be one of them too. But really, that's where we're going to concentrate on our compression as well as fashion compression. It's amazing how much the fashion compression industry has grown, where people don't want to wear the black, white, and nude fashion compression anymore. They want to have designs and colors and stripes and even bright colors in some cases. As they go for runs and jogs and those kind of things. That's our focus on that.
So Nimesh, this is an interesting topic, and it's got my wheels spinning a little bit in terms of prevention. Is there possibility for this kind of technology to evolve to people who don't have diabetes, for example, who might be even with the right set of sensors or technology and footwear? There could be some predictive insights that can come out of that. Then perhaps they can take steps or actions to avoid losing the nerve endings on their feet. I'm not sure if there's any value in that, or is that something that's come up as a conversation piece in recent years? Technology opens up all new things, right, that were impossible before. I'm just wondering if that's a thought that's come up as well. How do we prevent the problem from happening to begin with? Is there a way to do that?
So, I think the first criteria is, if you want to have, neuropathy doesn't always happen through diabetes, but yes, as I said, if you're wearing these shoes and these, and let's say we had these sensors in our shoes and we were measuring, the difference in heat or difference in pressure, there would be a way to early detect if you were going to have a diabetic foot ulcer, right? Or if you're going to have neuropathy going on. And you would get alerted on that, right? And then you could go and show yourself to a podiatrist, and they could sort of, obviously fit you with the right footwear, the orthotics, which you already had, but also, the right treatment from a standpoint of this. I want to make sure and everyone understands. This is the shoes and the orthotics are one part of this. But going to your medical professional is also another part, right? It's not you can't just do one or the other. You need to do both on this front. But so you're right, Tulia. This can be used and will be used in the future for early identification of diabetic foot ulcers as well as neuropathy. And also, once we gather enough data on this, you can use big data to come up with really cool analytics, which can get really predictive about when it just starts, you can get to a point where saying, hey, looking at this, you're a candidate for a neuropathy, diabetic foot ulcer amputation. You need to take care of it right now. Right. It'll also give us data on things like which we know sort of which ethnic groups and which socioeconomic background folks are more likely to get diabetic foot ulcers. But this could completely narrow it down to your ancestry or your genetics or your background, where we can start reaching out to these folks early on through social marketing, through email marketing, or just through the diabetic educator networks, and be like, hey, you know what, your group has a higher propensity to get neuropathy and DFU, and so we need to take care of it.
It's all about the education and awareness, and the right format is. You're right. I think going digital is the right way. So we're coming up on time. So we have a couple of more minutes left. So Nimesh, I just want to switch gears, since I know that you're from Austin, Texas, one of my favorite cities in America, right? So yeah, go Longhorns. Just tell us a little about life in Austin. I've always been envious of people building, homes and lives in Austin. It's just one of those cities.
Austin is, it's a great city. Obviously, it's been named the #1 city to live in for the last 3 years, I think, in a row, which has its pluses and minuses. For the longest time, Austin was the best kept secret. No one knew about it because it was in Texas. It was in the middle of Texas. People thought it's this, conservative, state, couldn't be a fun town. And when I used to travel in the 2000s, people used to joke and tell me, that there are hay bales rolling around in Austin. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, Austin has got a good reputation, and people are coming here in throngs. And big companies are moving. Headquarters here. Apple is building the second biggest sort of campus in Austin. So it's growing tremendously. It's a great city. It's a young city. It's extremely vibrant, very intelligent city. I think it was rated at one time one of the most educated cities in the United States. And because it has the University of Texas, which is 50,000 students, it's a great place for recruiting, great talent. So, I've loved Austin, lived here for now 22 years, and don't plan on leaving.
That's great. And the live music capital of the world.
Completely forgot about that. Yes, absolutely.
Southwest, right? So
South by Southwest,
yes.
Austin City Limits, the Grand Prix, if you're into that. So yeah, this is what happens in a pandemic. When you stop going out, you forget there's music.
Yeah.
music out there.
And for the
I've
cost
enjoyed all my trips to Austin.
of a studio in California, you can get a mansion on Lake
And
Travis.
that's the problem, Julio. All the Californians are moving here. Like in my cul-de-sac, the last 5 houses have been all bought by Californians. All
Wow.
have paid down direct cash, because for what they would pay, in Austin for a
Seriously.
pretty good house, they probably couldn't afford anything in San Francisco.
No,
So
nothing. You'd
there's
have
a California don't come.
to work hard to spend the money you would cost for.
There goes the neighborhood, as they say it, right? On that note,
So I was like, for Californians, Austin sucks. It's a terrible city. Please don't come.
The people are not friendly at all over there.
Yeah. We'll have to be neighbors with Nimesh.
No, that's terrible.
On that note, Nimesh, thank you again for a wonderful, wonderful session, and it was very educative. And as we're all getting up there in age, it's important to have this awareness that a simple measure like wearing the right shoes and the right socks would help elongate quality of living and also your life in general. So for the audience, we wish you a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving, and Nimesh, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family too. Signing off here, this is Ram Ganesan from Dojo Live, sponsored by Ancora. I'm joined by my colleague Tulio Siragusa from sunny Los Angeles. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the